Today we'll do an exit interview with Lloyd Uitermarkt. I've known Lloyd ever since I've been at the company, but I don't really know as much of his story. I do know he's from Monroe, Pella area, and has been, but I'm eager to learn more about his journey into the industry and journey into the company. So without any further ado, let's all learn together about Lloyd. So I know a lot about you, but there's a lot I don't know about you. So let's start from the top. Where did you grow up?
I grew up around Monroe. I was actually born around Pella.
Okay.
But I grew up around Monroe, went to high school there, and still live there.
Sure. So you, how far do you live now from where you grew up? Like a mile, 10 miles?
Probably about 5 miles.
And were you oldest, youngest?
No, I've got an older sister and a younger brother. So I'm in the middle.
Okay, middle child.
Mm-hmm.
So where'd you go to high school?
Monroe. It was actually New Monroe Community High School when I was going there. Now it's PCM.
Yeah, and your kids have probably went to PCM?
Yeah.
Okay. What'd your mom and dad do?
They were farmers.
Okay. And when you were in high school, what did you, were you in the band? Were you in science club, a football team? What were you?
I was just ornery.
Okay. Well, that hadn't changed. When you graduated high school, what did you do after high school?
Well, me and my brother, he was a year and a half younger than me. We kind of run the family farm and kind of did light construction work on the side.
And so was your dad still farming then at that time too?
He actually retired about that time.
Okay. How long did you do that then, run the farm?
Well, we was until 84, 85 when I went to work for Story. We was still doing that.
So was Story your first job off the farm?
It is, yes.
I'll be darned. Give me some perspective on time. So when did you graduate high school and then you started at Story in 84?
I graduated from high school in 1970.
Wow. How'd you find Story then? Or how did Story find you?
What the deal was is when I went to work for Story, unemployment was high, and you couldn't hardly find a job. Well, I heard there was a contractor working at the Newton wastewater treatment plant, so I went and talked to the superintendent there and filled out an application, and he told me to be there Monday morning.
Who was that superintendent?
His name was Paul Hartman.
So did your brother continue then on with the farm and you worked off the farm?
No, actually, no. We rented it out, and my brother actually bought a monument business. And he worked on that for quite a while. Well, then he had 3 of his sons growing up, and he actually went back to the farm and started farming and bought a couple more farms at that same time.
So monument business, like cemetery monuments?
Yes.
All right, so back to your story with Story. You started at the Newton waste treatment job. What did you start doing, and who were you doing it with? Who are some of the other people that were there?
Actually, for the first month or so I was there, I worked for Marty Martinson.
Okay.
Just working on the buildings there and so. And then after that, I went to work with Jimmy Rogers, and we built substations around the outside of Newton, and that's basically all I did there then.
All on that same project?
Yes.
Okay. Pump stations? Or
Yes.
Okay. Any other people that you remember that were on that project that were longtime Story folks?
Oh, yes. I mean, there was a lot of them there. I don't know. You remember Kevin Thompson?
Oh, yeah.
He was there.
Yeah.
Jim Myers was there. Oh, shoot, there was probably a lot of them that was there.
How big a job was that? Do you recall?
Well, at that time, I think it was like about $12 million, which was
That's a big job.
big project back in them days.
You bet. You bet. And that was maybe one of our first treatment plant projects, too, I think.
Well, yeah, I think they did one in Cedar Falls before that.
Okay.
Because some of the crews that was there actually came from Cedar Falls.
Got it. So you were on that project, and then what? Where did you go next, and when was that?
Oh, I suppose it was, probably a year later. I was probably there a year. And then Doyle Hayes was working there, and he asked me if I would go to Fort Dodge with him. And I said, yeah. I didn't have anything better to do, so I went to Fort Dodge with him, and that's probably, I've kind of worked for him for, I don't know how many years, probably 15 years.
Kind of a lead
Yes.
man, foreman.
Yeah, he was superintendent. I was foreman for him.
Yeah. So a Fort Dodge treatment plant, I assume?
Yes.
Well, Doyle did a little bit of traveling, so you did a little bit of traveling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'd been everywhere around here.
Yeah. So at what point then did you become a superintendent?
We was working at the Ottumwa wastewater treatment plant, and Larry Spurlick come up to me and asked me that we had just got a job across the street. It was Cargill then, and he asked me if I would go over there and run that job at the wastewater treatment plant for Cargill.
What year was that? Do you recall?
Oh, shoot. Early 90s, but I don't know for sure.
Sure. How'd that job go?
Good. Real good.
Good. Who were some of the people you worked with on that? Do you recall?
Oh, yeah. Dean Sadoff, he was there. I don't know if you remember him or not.
Yep.
Mike Klein was there. He's retired now. I know quite a few people was employed there from Ottumwa. I can't remember.
Yep. So you ran that job as a superintendent, and then did you just stay as a superintendent
Yes.
after that, or did you go back and work with Doyle anymore?
Nope, I stayed as a superintendent after that.
So as you think about your career, like what are some of the big jobs you remember, or and they don't even need to be big. What are some of the memorable jobs for you?
I think the Saylorville water plant for Des Moines Water Works, that was a real challenging job. It was a lot of fun. It was good people to work for.
Yeah.
Then I went and I've done a few jobs for the city of Des Moines. One was at the WRA, and that was a challenging job. I mean, we drove 50-foot sheets there to get down to where we had to start building down there. Took a lot of coordination to get that job done. And then I did a pump station for the city of Des Moines, East 4th and Shaw pump station there, just right up along the Des Moines River.
Yeah.
That was a good job. From there, I went to Marshalltown and built a wastewater treatment plant for JBS.
Didn't you and Brian Hesse go to Indianapolis for something?
Yes.
What was that about?
Me and Brian Hessick went to Indianapolis.
Yeah, what was that about?
Larry Spurlick had been a job for National Byproducts because their building that where they dumped all their dead animals was falling apart. And so me and Brian went there, and Larry's pretty smart about this. We built a building on the outside of that, and then tore the building down on the inside.
Yeah.
And, and it wasn't a real long job, but, me and Brian went to Indianapolis.
It was a pretty intense job, as I recall.
Yeah, we worked, if I remember right, from Memorial Day till the 4th of July, we worked every day. Saturday, Sunday, it didn't make any difference. We worked every day.
That had to be a pretty ripe environment, I would guess.
Yeah, Johnny Rogers was there with me, and you know Johnny, he made it fun.
He does. you grew up on a farm. There's probably nothing you can't do. No piece of equipment you couldn't operate, or what handy with tools. What were some of the things that you could do, or maybe was there anything you couldn't do on a job?
Well, I run a lot of equipment on the jobs.
Yeah.
I at one time was a pretty decent backhoe operator, but it's a long time ago. I don't know if I could do it anymore.
Sure. Sure. Oh, now it's like playing a video game, I think.
Well, I suppose.
Yeah. And you were a stockholder when you were here. Do you recall when you became a stockholder?
When Norm Reese retired,
That's
Dick
when
Johnson
Yeah.
offered me a chance to buy stock.
Yep. That's when I came in, so that had to be about 2000, I think.
Yeah, I suppose. I was actually at that time working at the wastewater treatment plant in Iowa City.
Yeah, boy, we had a lot of people there too, didn't we?
Yeah, that was an intense job.
That was. When did you officially retire?
What will it be? 3 years this coming fall,
Yeah.
I believe. We were just finishing that wastewater treatment plant up in Greenfield. So that's when I officially retired. I always told Brian that if he ever needed any help, that I wouldn't mind helping part-time.
Yeah.
But with this whole pandemic thing, I'm glad he never called me.
So as a retiree, did you lay pretty low? How did you manage the pandemic?
After I retired, I lived on an acreage just outside of Monroe, and I sold it. It was getting too much for me to take care of.
Sure.
And so I bought a smaller ranch house just on the outskirts of Monroe to the west, and it just so happens my backyard is on the golf course.
Oh, I'll be darned.
So I bought a golf cart, joined the club, and so that's what I do nowadays is I go golfing.
How many times a week?
Probably maybe 3 times.
Okay. You have a regular group that you go play with?
No, not really. My daughter, I've got a couple daughters that belong to it, and we go out once in a while.
Does your wife play?
No.
Are you any good?
No.
Okay. Do you enjoy it?
Yeah. I'm getting better.
Yeah. Golf is one of the things that during the pandemic, it was an outside activity and there was really not a lot else going on. So I think golf courses got a lot of play last year. Well, I remember your retirement party. Remember your family being here. So tell me a little bit about your family and what they did or what they're up to now.
Well, my 5 daughters. My oldest one's a nurse, a registered nurse. She works in Altoona. I got a daughter that was Pioneer. I think it's Wachovia now.
Corteva? Probably?
Yeah.
Yep.
She works for them. I got a daughter that's a real estate agent, and I got a daughter that runs a beauty salon, or that owns a beauty salon.
And how far do they all live kind of around Monroe, or are they?
They're all around Monroe except my daughter that works for Corteva. She lives in Johnston.
Okay. So is she the outcast, being like an hour
No,
away?
not really. Not really.
I'm teasing. That's
No.
not very far from home.
No. Actually, when it was still Pioneer, she actually took a job in Switzerland.
Mm.
And me and my wife flew to Switzerland then to visit her. And then they closed that off, and she's back in Johnston now.
How long was she in Switzerland?
A couple years, probably.
Okay. A lot of people, when they retire, have some goals to maybe travel more, do some things like that. So knowing the pandemic has sort of monkeyed things up a little bit, but in your retirement, what have you done, or what do you still look forward to doing that work didn't really allow you to do as much?
Well, after we moved to the smaller house, we had to make it our own. I've done quite a bit of work in that house since we moved.
Sure.
As far as travel, probably not too much. Me and my wife always like to go to Mexico for a week or so every year. haven't done that, and probably gonna do that later on when this whole thing kind of settles down a little bit.
Sure.
We we just renewed our passports to.
Okay. So where do you go there? Do you move around or always go to the same
No,
spot?
we've always go to an all-inclusive resort. We've been to probably 4 or 5 of them.
And is your wife working or?
No, she's retired.
Okay. When she worked, what did she do?
She was she worked for Windstream Communications,
Okay.
and she was kind of managed or worked in a department that manages the time off and vacation for employees there.
Okay.
And Windstream is like a nationwide company. They had like 3,000 or 4,000 employees.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a big headquarters in Newton, didn't they?
They did. They was in the Maytag, the old Maytag office building there for a while.
Yep. Yep.
I think their main headquarters is Little Rock, Arkansas.
So when you get up in the morning, what time do you get up and what do you do?
I still get up early.
Okay.
5 o'clock, between 5 and 6. And just piddle around most of the time.
Sure.
Or else get on my golf cart and check out the golf course.
Yeah. Yeah. So what, so you think back on your career and some of the internal relationships you had, like really strong relationships with story people, who were they and do you still stay in touch with them?
No, not really. I mean, me and Jerry Long was, I'd done a lot of jobs for Jerry Long. Troy Turner, did a lot of jobs for Troy Turner. Other than that, probably, I mean, those were probably the 2 main people that I worked with all the time.
How about outside people? So either key subcontractors or engineers on projects. Who were some that you particularly enjoyed working with?
V&K, I always liked working the jobs they designed and so.
Yeah.
Des Moines Waterworks, they had their own engineers, and they designed their own stuff. And that was always kind of nice because the design engineer for them jobs was on the job. So if you ever had a problem, they could be solved right away.
Sure.
That's probably the most, the ones that I enjoyed the most.
Sure. So you came off the farm, and I'm sure you were pretty handy. Were there people at the company that really invested in you that you remember? I mean, Doyle clearly was one of them, but other people that sort of helped you figure things out and grow in your skill set?
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Rogers was one of them. I was like Jimmy.
Sure.
I worked hard for Jimmy, and whenever we was working on them pump stations, and whenever we needed to go up to the main job to get tools, he would always say, "Lloyd, jumping the trick up. We need to go up to the to the main job site." And Larry Sperlich, he's helped me a lot.
You bet. You bet. And that's a pretty common theme.
Yeah.
With people. So as you think back on your work life, be it on the farm or in the construction industry, and obviously you raise daughters and you've got sons-in-law and you've got grandkids, and you've been in your community for a long time, so you know people. So what sort of advice would you give them, or what sort of encouragement would you give them just as they forge out in life?
I don't know what to say about that. I mean, you got to do what you want to do. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And you just try to be the best you can at what you're doing.
Yeah. So now it's open mic time. Is there any funny stories you have, any really good memories you have, anything that you thought of coming into today, like, hey, I should really make sure I share this?
Oh, shoot. Well, I can't think of too much, but, I mean, the years that I worked for Story, I mean, we did some incredibly cool stuff that most people don't realize what we've done. When we was building that water treatment plant for Des Moines Water Works, that Saylorville plant, there was an open house there, and there was a lot of people from Story there, and a lot of the people that was there was walking through that plant, and they said, wow, I never knew Story did anything like this.
Sure.
I mean, there was a time when we've had to make some really big picks and had to get like 500-ton cranes in there and that was always interesting to see that. Back in the late 80s, we was working in Davenport at their water treatment plant in Davenport.
Right.
We had to lay piping underneath the railroad. There was a railroad that cut right through the center of the job. And so we had to lay I believe a 48-inch line underneath that railroad. Tried to get somebody in there that would go in there and lay it for us. You know, we'd have to go in there and core that out. But it just so happened that where they wanted the elevation to want to lay it was halfway in bedrock and halfway in dirt. And there wasn't a doggone boring company in the United States would take it on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know the superintendent there talked to a lot of people. So we ended up getting a blasting company in there. They drilled while the trains weren't going through and got ready to blast that. And so we had to shut the railroad down. So they set it off, and me and Larry Sperlich was filming it, and they set that off, and the doggone ground where it was there, it just actually boiled up. And so then we quick removed the train tracks. We had a rented crane there, like a 150-ton crane rented there.
Okay.
And the railroad was there, and they quick got the train tracks all loose, and we lifted that whole thing out with one crane, and then went in with backhoes to get everything down so we could put the tracks back. And we had to get this done in 1 day's time.
Yeah.
So that was really incredible.
So when you said it boiled up, it just when the dynamite or the explosives detonated, it just
raised the ground up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh darn. But you got the 48-inch line dropped in there, got it backfilled, and got track laid over the top, so the trains were running the next day.
Well, I think when we did that, we quick went in there and excavated that out to get the tracks back, because that was a pretty big job.
Yeah.
And then later on, we pulled the tracks again, and then we went through and laid a 48-inch line, if I remember right.
Got it. Yeah, the action happens at the site and things like that. I'm glad you told that story because I've never heard that one before.
Oh,
yeah.
I had a lot of fun working with Story. I miss it.
What do you miss?
Just the things we did on jobs and so.
Yeah, I would think some of the problem solving and some of the people and some of the sort of having a common goal to figure something out, then execute. Okay, well, keep your phone on. Brian might call you one of these days. There you have it, straight from Lloyd's mouth. He came off the farm and came right into Story and had one career company experience in our industry. Pretty cool to think how close not only he's been able to stay to his roots, but his family and their ability to stay close to one another as well. Lloyd is always a very quiet, kind of unassuming guy, but he's always got a game plan, and you can always see it on his face, and it's fun to hear him tell the stories of some of the specific jobs and specific challenges that he was able to learn from and then help lead others through and overcome. really, really valuable guy and really valuable resource and part of our story lore. We certainly appreciate Lloyd, and 3 years retired now, enjoying life on the golf course. We'll have to get out and play with him. Thanks, Lloyd.